across the UK.
This is BBC Radio 5 Live. 5 Live Breakfast.
With Nicky, Campbell and Rachel Burden.
It is your Thursday morning breakfast on 5 Live. The HS2 project has reached a major milestone after the Chancellor kicked off the bidding process for constructing the high-speed line. George Osborne made the announcement on a trip to China and invited firms there to bid on contracts worth nearly £12 billion, despite the fact that the laws paving the way for the project are yet to be approved by Parliament. Richard Houghton is spokesperson for the HS2 Action Alliance. Good morning.
Good morning, Nicky.
Hi, Adam's here as well. What are your thoughts on the timing of this?
Well, I think there's two things on the timing. One, the opposition within Parliament is growing. There's a view that now that the north to east electrification has been postponed, that maybe HS2 isn't the ideal solution, and we should be looking at building our existing infrastructure rather than bringing in new. So I think, it's much harder to wind back on a decision if £11 billion of contracts have been issued, despite the fact there are no funds available, obviously, because the bill hasn't gone through. And I think, secondly, George Osborne's always been very good at using HS2 for his own political ambitions. I mean, initially it was going to be the alternative to the third runway at Heathrow, well, we know that is now. Secondly, it was going to be part of the Northern Powerhouse at the general election, and now it's going to be part of his prime ministerial ambitions.
Some would say that. We couldn't possibly comment. But I suppose one argument is, although you're right to say we had this confirmed by the boss of HS2, that where we are at the moment, the run-up, the bidding process, the run-up to a decision is costing the taxpayer quite a lot of money. Is it good, though, to open the process to as many bidders as possible?
Well, it could be. I mean, logic would say, but I mean, if you were running this commercially, you wouldn't be putting out bids until you knew you could afford to pay for them. And this is a fundamental piece. I mean, it's a mercenary approach, and it's dismissive of the parliamentary process. And, our view would be that you need to wait until the hybrid bill has gone through Parliament, that it's had due study in both the Commons and the Lords, and then you start looking for people to supply it. The reason around the timing as well is, of course, they're running behind. The initial budget was put together, as the Department of Transport described, as a high-level desktop exercise. They stripped out the connection to Heathrow, reduced the scope elsewhere, yet the budget has gone up £12 billion from the original. It's now sitting at £50 billion. So they've got problems. So I know they're going to have to bring in funds from somewhere. And I think the recent freezing of the electrification in the north is an indication of the fact that the funds aren't available. And lastly, I would say, there was a major Projects Authority report on this HS2, which the government applied a veto to. We managed to get that out for a Freedom of Information Act. And that clearly stated that they didn't feel there was the funds necessary to keep the existing infrastructure running and run HS2. So they've got some issues, so I understand why.
Just finally, I mean, this other issue about that this hasn't actually gone through Parliament yet, just explore that a little bit more for us. You mentioned it earlier on, the fact that you suspect that they are creating a narrative. In the words of the late, great Peter Jones, he had this phrase once, the great commentator, he said, there's an inevitability about the whole scenario. You think that's the card they're playing, yeah?
Well, yeah, I mean, it started when Lord Adonis grabbed the idea because the Department of Transport had said repeatedly over 10 years they didn't feel the need for a high-speed rail line. He created HS2 Limited to push it through. As I say, George Osborne has always been good at grabbing it for his own purposes. The more you spend, the more you say it's going to be good for the country, despite the evidence, despite the opposition across the country, despite the lack of public support. It gets harder to stop it. And they're trying to build up some momentum. I mean, the project has been stuttering from the very beginning, and that hasn't changed. But, they're trying to put a gloss on it to give the impression that it's under control and be delivered on time.
Thanks for coming on, Richard. Cheers. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Richard Houghton, spokesperson for the HS2 Action Alliance. Adam, there is a fair amount of opposition to this, isn't there?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, you've been hearing there quite a lot of the doubters to do with the cost of HS2, to do with the necessity for it. I mean, I regularly hear people saying to me, instead of spending all this money on a new high-speed line, let's spend money, for instance, on introducing high-speed broadband across the rail network. And there is a question about it takes so long to build it that by the time it is built, the picture and the structure and the infrastructure of the country will have changed.